You want me to pull up the message right now? Jasmine's voice cut through the studio like a blade. The cameras didn't catch it immediately, but the silence in the room said everything. Gino's eyes twitched, jaw clenched. He didn't expect her to bring this kind of heat. Not here. Not like this. There wasn't a dramatic pause. She didn't need one. She was already standing, heels grounded, shoulders squared like someone who came ready to end a quiet war, publicly. Gino tried to laugh it off, but it sounded hollow, forced, defensive, like someone already trapped in a corner and trying to fight his way out with noise. The room froze. The cast held their breath. The host blinked like he missed a memo. But Jasmine didn't care who was uncomfortable. Her eyes never left Gino's face. You think I came here to cry on cue and let you finish what you started? No, not tonight. This wasn't acting. This wasn't for show. This was the kind of confrontation that made even the producers push a little closer to their radios, whispering for backup off stage. And then she said it. You remember what you texted me the day after you left Michigan? Or should I read it out loud? Gino shifted. Subtle, but enough. He tried to look bored, but his fingers gripped the seat a little tighter. His lips parted slightly, like he might argue, but no words came. The rest of the cast glanced at each other. Some looked down. One quietly muttered under their breath. The host finally stepped in. Jasmine, can we not? No. Jasmine cut back sharply. That's what you always do. Try to smooth this out so he walks away clean. He thinks silence means protection. But he forgot. I kept the receipts. Fans who watched this moment on air remember two things. The way Gino blinked, slow and stiff like he was buffering, and the way Jasmine's voice didn't shake. It was cold. Too cold. A woman only speaks like that when she's been ignored for too long. The tension didn't rise. It exploded, and suddenly we weren't watching a reunion. We were watching a slow, public unraveling of one of 90 Day Fiancé's most toxic pairings. This time with both of them showing up angry and unfiltered. Before Gino could respond, Jasmine pulled out her phone. Bright red nails sliding across the screen, furious but steady. The screen glowed. She angled it toward the cameras. You sent this. Is this your number? Don't lie. We're mic'd. Gino started to speak, then bit it back. The host leaned in again cautiously. Jasmine, are you saying Gino sent you something threatening? She exhaled, a sharp, controlled breath. No, not threatening, but manipulative, desperate, textbook Gino. And here's where it got even messier, because she didn't read the full message. She read part of it, paused right at the moment the context was about to explode, and slipped the phone back into her lap. You like to pretend you're innocent, she said, but people need to see how you twist things when the cameras are off. This wasn't just confrontation, it was strategy. Jasmine wasn't performing, she was calculating. Every beat seemed designed to expose him without giving him the ammo to turn it into a pity play. And Gino took the bait. He launched straight into defensiveness. You don't know how hard I tried, Gino snapped back. His voice cracked with something between rage and regret. Everyone thinks you're some victim, but you used me. Jasmine didn't blink. Used you? I gave up my life to be with you, and all you did was treat me like a backup option. The air thickened. Co-stars shuffled in their seats. One whispered, I think this is about to get too real. Then Gino went darker. You ruined everything. You talk like you're above all this, but you begged to come back on the show. Someone gasped. The host tried to intercept again, urging them to take a beat, maybe cut to commercial, but that was long past useful. The damage was done, not just to reputations, but to the illusion of mutual respect. These weren't two people arguing. This felt like two people finally letting the gloves drop after seasons of resentment, manipulation, denial, and deflection. You think I don't know how you kept those texts? Jasmine said quietly, leaning forward like she was about to end him with words alone. You don't understand how scared I was. I kept screenshots because I didn't feel safe waiting for someone else to believe me. That's when the cast turned. Not shouting, not gasping, not visibly reacting, but you could see the change. A few jaws tightened. An audible shift. Gino's protectors went silent. The host tried to pivot. "Maybe we take a breather. Cool down." But Jasmine stood again. "Stop protecting him! This show protects men who play victims, while women are labeled dramatic or unstable. I'm not unstable. I'm prepared." She paused. "And if he lies again, I'll read the other ones. He knows what's in them." Everything stopped. Gino's jaw clenched. His breathing changed. He didn't shout. He didn't smirk. He just sat there. Quiet. And that silence was louder than any insult thrown all night. When Jasmine posted that teary-eyed apology on her stories, the internet didn't know what to do with it. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't accusing. She was calm. Almost heartbreakingly calm. Raw voice, puffy eyes, no filters, no lashes, and instead of her usual fire, she said the one thing no one expected. "I'm sorry for my part." It should have been the start of closure. Fans wanted peace, but they weren't ready for what came next. Because less than 24 hours later, Gino was already leaking DMs. Selective screenshots cropped just enough to give himself room to play the victim again. Fans started flipping sides. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Everyone was guessing. Was Jasmine sincere or strategic? Gino hearting sympathy comments while silently feeding the fire from backstage group chats. The apology lost its weight fast. Not because of the words, but because of what Gino did with them. And Jasmine? She saw. Every edited message. Every backhanded like on Instagram. Every fake "I've moved on" post that somehow still circled back to her name like a dog whistle for public sympathy. It wasn't healing. It was bait. So she went quiet again. Her stories disappeared, comments turned off, and then she popped up in a friend's vlog looking the opposite of okay. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her laugh was too quick. She kept glancing at her phone like she was expecting bad news. Or tracking it. Her friend didn't push, but later that same day, Jasmine posted a cryptic message. "Don't mistake silence for weakness. Some of us document everything." The comment blew up. Fans zoomed in. Drama channels clipped it on repeat. Suddenly, it felt like the apology wasn't an ending at all. It was the pause before a bigger storm. And then, quietly, Gino slipped into her DMs. The message wasn't violent. It wasn't overt. It was cold, transactional, and full of implied pressure. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't address the apology. He said, "If you say one more untrue thing in public, I'll take legal action." No warning, no discussion, just that. For Jasmine, it wasn't the first time he threatened consequences off camera. But this time, she was done swallowing it. She called a friend overseas that night, her voice flat but fast. "He's doing it again," she said. "He's using legal like a knife. I don't feel safe, not even in my own inbox." Her friend asked if she needed help, if maybe she should step back from filming the reunion. Jasmine didn't respond, but the look in her eyes said no. Not this time. 2 days later, Jasmine began compiling. Not rants, evidence, screenshots, call logs, paragraphs of context people had never seen. Gino thought he'd control the narrative like always, framing his side in quiet DMs, letting fans assume the rest. But Jasmine wasn't playing reactive anymore. She was prepping. That's when her tone online shifted. Followers noticed the change. She wasn't posting quote cards about heartbreak anymore. She started liking posts about boundaries, control, digital paper trails, power dynamics. She wasn't screaming into the void. She was sharpening her edges. And then it happened. She opened her email on a quiet Thursday evening, expecting a routine reminder for the reunion wardrobe fitting. But there it was. A forwarded message from someone she trusted on production. No subject line, one sentence in the body. "FYI, he told them you begged to come back for one last payout." The screenshot attached hit harder than anything Gino ever said to her directly. Because this wasn't a fight. It was sabotage. He was planting doubt with producers, spinning the idea that Jasmine wasn't showing up for clarity, she was showing up for cash, framing her as a clout-hungry partner who faked tears for a final check. She stared at the screen longer than she'd admit. Her stomach flipped. Eyes stung, not because of shock, but because somewhere deep down, she had known. She just didn't think he'd put it in writing. Not to them. That's when something in her flipped. Not broken, not weak. Decisive. She picked up her phone and called the only person she hadn't spoken to since the split began spiraling. A lawyer she once met through a friend who'd sworn by them for handling exactly this kind of mess. This reunion wasn't going to be about Gino's redemption arc. This time, she was writing the story. The energy on set was fake calm. Cast members were chatting in low voices, producers were faking grins, and the makeup team was doing last touches with slightly shaking hands. But under all that, tension. The kind that makes everyone breathe a little too carefully. They weren't worried about hair or lighting. They were worried about Jasmine. And when she walked in, heels clicking like warning shots, they were right to be. She didn't smile, didn't wave. No eye contact with the warm-up crew, head high, posture perfect, face unreadable. This wasn't the Jasmine who cried in Season 8. This wasn't Season 10's chaotic confession queen either. This was a woman pacing her own courtroom. And Gino, he read it all wrong. He gave a slight smirk, that forced, smug little grin that's supposed to say, "I'm good." He even threw in a light joke under his breath to the cast member beside him. Jasmine didn't even look in his direction. Mic check. Cameras ready. Lights hot. The countdown started. And there it was. Everything felt planned, but nothing prepared them for the real showdown. The host eased in the opening questions, kept it light, asked how they'd been. Gino leaned into his buzzwords about healing, moving forward, respecting the past. He was coasting right through the script, until Jasmine blinked once, slow, and said, "I know what you did off camera." You could feel it, like someone sucked the oxygen out of the studio in one sentence. Gino paused, struggled to swallow, then asked, "What are you talking about?" She didn't raise her voice, didn't look angry, just direct enough to hit. "I know about the lie you told production, about the payout, about how I begged, about me faking everything." Gino's mouth dropped. Not all the way, but enough. It was the first time he looked unsure. The host tried to soften things. "Let's stay focused on what happened on the show, Jasmine." "I'm staying exactly focused. Gino brought the lies here. I'm just bringing the truth." Gino held up his hand like he was calming a room of toddlers. "You're really gonna do this in front of everyone?" "Yes," she replied, without blinking. And that's when things cracked. Because Jasmine didn't pull out her receipts. Not yet. She didn't blast him with texts or screenshots. She just sat there and let the implication hang in the air. She didn't need to show her ammo. It was enough that everyone now knew she had it. The host tightened his lips, shifted in his seat. The co-stars leaned back, watching like they weren't sure if they were part of the episode or just witnesses with better seats to the drama than anyone on Twitter. But Gino? He tipped. "You know what?" He spat, voice higher, posture snapping forward. "If you keep pushing this fantasy, I'm done playing." Jasmine didn't flinch. "I'll sue you," he said, louder. "Right here. You want that? You want a lawsuit on TV?" Someone behind the scenes audibly whispered, "Oh no." A chair creaked. "My lawyers saw your posts," Gino kept going. "They know what you've said. You think you can just talk and not get hit back? Think again." For a second, Jasmine looked at him. Not with fear, not with fight, with boredom. "I'm not afraid of threats," she said. "I'm afraid of silence. That's why I'm speaking now." And then she did something no one saw coming. She turned to the host. "Would you mind if I finish answering the first question?" As if Gino's blow-up hadn't just sucked the entire soul out of the room. The host blinked. Sure." And Jasmine smiled for half a second, the kind of smile reserved not for peace, but for checkmate. The room cleared for a break, but no one exhaled. There was no grabbing snacks, no laughing with crew, no checking phones. There was only one person with purpose: Jasmine. Still in heels, still stone-faced. She walked straight off set, past the confused assistant producers, and into a quiet hallway, like she had an appointment with the truth. She didn't ask. She told. "I need to speak to someone from legal, and your story lead. Together." The producer nearest her gave a fake nod like he understood, then realized, halfway through the motion, that she wasn't giving a heads up, she was making a move. A few minutes later, in one of the side production rooms, Jasmine sat across from 3 people. One exec sweating through a too-tight collar, one lawyer who looked like he already hated this day, and one script coordinator who suddenly realized their job might have just left reality behind. And Jasmine reached into her purse. Not flashy, not dramatic, and pulled out a flat red folder. Unlabeled, sharp corners, clean. She dropped it on the table. "I'm not trying to burn him," she said, "but I'm not leaving here and letting that man rewrite who I was to him just because he's louder. This is yours. Use it if you want, but now you know the context." No one touched it right away. The tension wasn't TV anymore. It was legal. Inside were printed screenshots, voicemail transcripts, a handwritten list of dates and messages, receipts, not the petty kind, the kind that traced a real psychological timeline. DMs where Gino allegedly pressed Jasmine not to speak, random cash apps she refused, messages that went from sweet to manipulative in 2 inches of screen real estate. One of the producers finally asked, half-whispered, "Has he seen this?" "No," Jasmine said, eyes dead set. "But he will." Meanwhile, back on set, things felt different. The air had changed. 2 cast members asked why so many producers were suddenly missing from the room. A camera guy leaned in to ask if they needed to delay the next segment. 10 minutes passed. Then 20, and then Jasmine returned. But she didn't come back alone. She stopped backstage beside a co-star, someone who's always played the middle, and handed them the folder. "Skim the first 2 pages, she said. They started flipping, eyes widening with every page turned. At the 3rd page, they let out a slow, "Oh my God." Jasmine didn't smile, didn't blink. That co-star looked toward production, looked back at Jasmine, and whispered, "You have to show this on camera." "I gave them the choice," she said, then added, "Be careful who you sit next to when we go back out." The cast started trickling back to stage. The lights reset, the camera crew repositioned, but one cast member didn't return. They said they had a migraine. 10 minutes later, they were in an Uber headed to the hotel. Everyone knew why. Word traveled fast, even in silences. And Gino, he felt it. He stood off stage, arms folded, bouncing ever so slightly on his heels. He clocked the missing face. He caught the strange side glances. And then he caught the whisper. One of the floor runners said it loud enough. "She gave them a folder." He froze. "What?" he asked. His handler pretended not to hear. "A folder? What folder?" Gino demanded, louder. Someone finally looked him in the eye. "She gave TLC stuff you didn't give them," they said. "And legal's seen it." Gino went pale. Not soft pale, not sick pale. Ice. "What the hell did she show them?" No one answered, because no one had to. He already knew. He came back to set tight-lipped, fists clenched, lips paper-thin. Gino wasn't trying to calm anymore. Whatever composure he'd rehearsed was out the door. And when the cameras rolled again, it didn't take long for the meltdown to find oxygen. The host barely finished his sentence when Gino cut in hard. "She's making things up! You people don't see the real Jasmine!" He looked directly at the camera. Not apologetic, not broken. Angry. "You think she's a victim? You should have seen what she did off screen." Jasmine didn't move. Her face didn't shift. But her stillness was louder than his tantrum. That's when it hit viewers. Something was off. Because 5 seconds later, as Gino started listing vague accusations, No specifics, no receipts. He tripped himself up. He mentioned a message Jasmine allegedly sent after the breakup, then one he claimed was during the Christmas trip. The problem? Those events were 6 months apart. Live fact-checkers on Twitter were already on it. Posts lighting up like fireworks. Notice Gino contradicts himself within 2 minutes? Catch how he always shifts blame without detail? Masterclass in deflection. What some fans didn't realize until this point was the pattern. Not in what Gino said, in what he didn't. Deflection, ambiguity, emotion instead of evidence. As his voice rose, Jasmine still hadn't spoken, and the host did something that hadn't happened all episode. He looked uncomfortable. Everyone had watched Jasmine being intense before, passionate, sometimes chaotic. But this side of Gino, sharp, sloppy, all teeth and panic, that was different. And TLC was ready, because while Gino kept spiraling, the screen behind the stage cut to black, then flickered, then rolled a clip from an unaired interview. The confessional was raw, unedited, Gino staring dead ahead, legs bouncing under the table. Audio picked up the tapping of his wedding ring on the arm of the chair. "She thinks she can play me like that and just walk away?" he said. Nah. She doesn't get to humiliate me and expect peace. Jasmine deserves, I don't know, consequences. Even some cast members flinched. He looked the camera in the eye, eyes almost daring, and added, "I'll ruin her if I have to." Cut back to the reunion set. Silence. Everyone looked at Jasmine, expecting her to break, cry, yell, react. But she blinked once, stood calmly, took off her mic, and handed it to the crew. "I'm not sitting here while he threatens me. I'm not shaking for the camera." She turned to the host. "I'll come back, but not with him." And then, slowly, quietly, she walked away. The cameras were smaller this time. No live crew, no audience, no hot set lights. But something about Jasmine's living room felt heavier than any studio ever could. The blinds were partially closed. Her voice was quieter than it had ever been on TV. Not broken, not theatrical, just low, like someone saving energy for survival. They gave her space. TLC had agreed to shoot the rest of her reunion testimony privately. Not because of ratings, they'd already gotten their drama. This was about liability, because for the first time, there were quiet conversations behind the scenes about safety. Real concern. This wasn't about fame anymore. It was about fear. She wiped her palms on her jeans before the mic was clipped. No glam, no production makeup, just jeans and a plain top and a tiny gold necklace she didn't touch once. Her eyes, still red. Not from crying, from exhaustion. They asked the first question off camera. She waited, then finally spoke. "I'm coming on here like this not because I need sympathy," she said, "but because I need a clean record of truth. For me, for peace, for whatever happens next." The raw honesty behind her words pulled everything into focus. This wasn't the Jasmine who'd gone viral for throwing fits in confessionals. This wasn't the toxic girlfriend edit. This was a woman clearly carrying more than the audience had ever been allowed to see. "I gave him everything," she whispered. "Not the show. Me. I gave me. And after everything, he turned me into a storyline he could control." She reached forward, picked up a small notebook, and flipped to a tabbed page. "That man texted me over 27 times after asking for space. He didn't want space. He wanted silence. He wanted to control when I could speak." She showed the time-stamped list. The dates lined up with production breaks and holidays, moments she thought she could breathe. But instead, the pattern repeated. Emotional confusion, love, anger, apology, threat, in the same week. She paused. There's something about someone knowing just when to be kind and just when to twist the knife. Her eyes welled, not dramatic tears, not for show, the kind that don't spill because you're too tired to let them. "I should have said something earlier. Friends told me, people online. Even the ones who trashed me? Some of them were right. I wasn't okay. She folded the notebook closed. Off camera, a producer asked softly, "Why did you stay silent during most of the season if this was happening behind the scenes?" Jasmine looked up. "Because I knew no one would believe me if I didn't have proof, and part of me still loved him." Then her phone buzzed. She paused automatically, checked the screen, and the littlest tremble crossed her hand. She didn't speak for 5 seconds, then handed her phone to a staff member. "Can you play that?" she asked. The audio was crisp, a voicemail left just hours before the reunion shoot. "Jasmine, you think you've got power now? Wait till my side comes out. You're not ready for what I'm about to do. Keep talking, and you'll regret it." The room froze. The legal rep behind the monitor coughed and leaned forward. The producer asked, "Is that his voice?" "You tell me," Jasmine said, "because I get calls like that at midnight, and I still can't prove everyone's from him." There was no reaction shot, no dramatic zoom, just silence. "You know what's funny?" she said softly. "People think women like me stay because we're weak, but we actually stay because we're scared of what happens when we leave, of the version of him that doesn't care about being seen as the nice guy anymore." Jasmine ripped a tissue from the box next to her, but didn't use it. "I can handle hate, but I wasn't ready for obsession, and right now, it feels like I'm living in the part where the cameras turn off, but the danger doesn't." She looked directly at the handheld camera lens. She didn't blink. "I am not afraid of exposure. I am afraid of the fact that no matter how publicly he hurts me, someone will still make excuses for it." Her phone buzzed again. This time, she didn't look. The producer checked it for her. "It's from your attorney," they said. Jasmine tilted her head like she already knew. A few seconds later, she was quietly handed a letter, printed and tucked into a legal folder. She read it once, didn't gasp, didn't panic. "I guess this is real now," she muttered. "What happened?" "The lawyer says he's filing a formal claim, maybe 2. One for defamation based on my statements on and off camera, another one about emotional distress he says he's suffered." For a second, even she laughed. "Imagine that," she said, keeping her laugh dry. "He spends months scaring me, sends voicemails like that, and now I'm the one who caused him distress?" No one in the room smiled. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was someone reaching the edge of her tolerance, with nowhere left to flinch. It started with an email. Polite, legal, cold. The kind of cold that doesn't feel threatening until you read the last line 3 times and realize it was always about control. Jasmine's attorney called it blunt. Her friend called it petty. She called it what it was, a power play dressed up in paperwork. The sender was Gino's attorney. The demand was simple. Cease all public discussion of their relationship, retract the private accusations, and issue a joint statement, or face a defamation suit, plus a separate claim for emotional damage. Oh, and he wanted $100,000. This was never supposed to leave the screen, but now it was real life. At first, Jasmine didn't panic. She'd seen Gino overplay hands before, but this felt different. Formal, documented, strategic. Not about protecting privacy, not about setting boundaries, about silencing her. She stayed quiet for 2 days, deleted her pinned posts, removed her apology story, turned her profile private. It wasn't out of fear, it was calculation. She knew any emotional reaction would be turned into content by someone else. And Gino? He was already trying to claim the narrative. Within hours, quiet blog accounts started posting subtle digs, half-truths, things only a few people could have leaked. One said Jasmine was spiraling. Another hinted she was regretting the reunion disaster she caused. A third reported Gino had already begun court filings, even though nothing was confirmed and the supposed lawsuit didn't legally exist yet. The flood wasn't accidental. It was a charm offensive. He wasn't speaking directly, but he didn't have to. He had his own damage control squad. Throw enough distractions, watch everyone forget who started the fire. Fans noticed. Not all, but enough. Hashtags started trending from both camps. Half were defending Jasmine, calling out his pattern of manipulation since the early seasons. The others were less kind, accusing her of weaponizing the victim angle, calling her dramatic, fake, calculated. It was whiplash. Digital mess turned legal chess. All while Jasmine stayed completely silent. Her closest friends weren't surprised. They were worried. One of them, someone who'd been a shoulder through the worst parts of the breakup, told her flat out, "Don't respond. Don't upload. Don't go live. That's what he wants, a reaction. Keep your head down." But Jasmine wasn't sure she could do that again. Staying quiet had nearly broken her the first time. Avoiding conflict didn't buy her peace. It just gave him time to get louder. She was sitting on that crossroad, phone in her lap, typing and deleting a draft caption for the 4th time, when her DMs blinked with a message she didn't expect. It wasn't from a fan, not a troll, not even a blogger. It was a co-star. Someone from earlier in the reunion shoot. Someone who'd seen Gino's reaction live. Someone Jasmine didn't think had picked a side. The message was short. "Hey, are you okay? I didn't want to say anything on camera, but I heard what he told during break. You need to know this, especially with that lawyer stuff." Her heart snapped to full alert. She typed back fast. "Tell me everything, please." And 2 minutes later, a voice note dropped. She played it once, stunned. Then again. This time, she wrote it down. Because in Gino's own words, passed along secondhand but loud enough to be overheard and confidently repeated, was the admission no one expected him to utter outside of private pressure. "She doesn't have real proof. And even if she releases it, I'll drag her in court until she quits talking. Once I hit her where it hurts, you'll see how fast she shuts down." There it was. Strategy over sorrow. Suppression over resolution. It wasn't about being hurt. It was about winning in silence. The countdown beeped once. Twice. Then the screen split in two. Jasmine on one side, breath slow, chest rising in that thin, rehearsed rhythm people use when they're trying not to panic. Gino on the other, already leaned back, already smirking, already pretending he wasn't there to break something. This call wasn't scheduled for closure. No one thought that. Not the mediators, not the tech guy checking mics. This was war in Zoom form. And both of them came loaded, not with peace offerings, but strategy. They weren't talking for resolution. They were talking for ammo. The mediator began. Soft voice, company tone. Any hope for a respectful conversation today from both parties? Silence. Gino blinked first. "I'm always respectful," he said, heavy on the sarcasm. "But I've got boundaries, and if she keeps pushing mine, someone else is going to start knocking on her door. Legal kind." Jasmine didn't engage. She fixed her hair slowly, like her movements were louder than anything she could say. The mediator tried again. "We realize tensions are high, but—" Gino interrupted again. "Look, either she walks back the public lies, or we take it to court. Simple. I've done the work. I've got the receipts. And this, all of this right here, documented." Jasmine tapped something on her desk. Quiet. Sharp. Her phone, already recording the call. She'd been advised to. The mediator's mouth moved, but no one was listening anymore. Everyone was watching the exchange. Tone, posture, passive aggression on full blast. "I've said nothing false," Jasmine spoke finally. Her voice didn't just sound calm, it sounded practiced. "What happened is real, whether you accept it or not. I've shared my experience. Privately with producers. Publicly, barely." Gino rolled his eyes. "You've been playing this broken bird thing since the day we broke up," he snapped. "And now it's defamation? Please. You weren't a victim. You were an actress. A good one, maybe. But even reality TV has limits." Jasmine stiffened. That landed, but she swallowed it. "I'm done arguing feelings," she said. "I'm focused on facts." "Oh, you want facts?" Gino leaned in now. "You were broke when you came to me. You begged to stay in this country. I kept you here out of kindness. You think that gets erased by a few sob stories on Instagram?" She smiled. It wasn't warm. "Thank you for that," she said. "It'll make a beautiful clip." Gino's face cracked. For the first time all call, he looked surprised. Because that's when it landed. She wasn't reacting because she already knew what she was doing. "You want to keep making this mess public?" he asked. "Fine. I hope you can afford a lawyer, 'cause I'm done talking. You have 2 options now. Pay your dues, or deal with the consequences. I'm going all the way. If you don't pay, jail. That's where this leads." The air on the call shifted. Even the mediator wasn't moving anymore. Jasmine reached off screen again, slow and surgical, and pulled out a folder. Thin, neat. Placed it in frame like a mic drop. "Already talked to mine," she said. "Everything you said since our NDA expired? Recorded. Everything you threatened me with since that paperwork? Documented. I don't need to react. The law will do that for me now." Their faces locked. No shouting, no insults. Just 2 people frozen mid-move, reading each other like final chess pieces sliding toward checkmate. And Jasmine, with the same eyes she'd once cried into during Season 9, said calmly, "You do what you think is necessary, and I'll do what I know is right." It always starts with a whisper, then a screenshot, then a tweet with 5 words. The stuff TLC didn't air. That's how it leaked. Not as a scandal, but as a slow, brutal unraveling of scenes the audience never knew existed. Tiny background details, footage that didn't make the final cut because it made things feel too real, too unstable. Not dramatic, dangerous. And the scariest part? It wasn't the yelling. It was what happened in the silence. A floor assistant posted first, anonymously. "We were told to stay close, in case things got physical," it read. Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. His whole energy changed the minute she stopped being emotional. Then a runner described the body language. During the break, when cameras were briefly off, Gino didn't sit. He stood, pacing in a loop behind the curtain, whispering to himself, repeating phrases. He wasn't raging. He was rehearsing. Cold, controlled, obsessed. "You could hear a pin drop," someone wrote. Even the production crew had backup walkies in hand. They didn't deny it either. That was the first time I saw them fully on alert. The images started leaking soon after. Blurry, clipped from internal feeds. One showed Jasmine glaring off camera, arms wrapped across her waist, face drained, while a producer whispered something close to her ear. Another caught Gino with both fists curled at his sides, shoulders locked in that specific posture people take when they're fighting the urge to react harder than a situation allows. Every few months, reality shows hit moments where the line between performance and instability blurs. This wasn't that. This was something past the line. A producer, quoted by name but off camera, gave the clearest statement yet. "This is the closest we've come to danger on set. Not yelling, not insults. That's normal. This was different. This was someone who didn't care we were rolling anymore." They didn't say who, but everybody already knew. And in the middle of all that leaked footage, fan opinions started to shift. Fast. Jasmine, the one who'd once been slammed for being too intense, too reactive, too dramatic, was starting to look like something else. Resilient. Survivor energy. Strategic, not emotional. Clips were rewatched. Old arguments saw new context. That meltdown 2 seasons ago suddenly looked more like a cry for help. The way she'd tried to explain things before being talked over in edits? Now fans were asking, who silenced her? People noticed the moments where she didn't respond. Jasmine not replying when Gino accused her. Jasmine staring at the floor while others laughed. Jasmine putting down her mic, not as a stunt, but as self-protection. She didn't storm out. She walked. And with each leak, Each quiet audio clip, viewers saw what TLC chose not to show. And some started asking why. Why protect a fragile man instead of an honest one? Why treat silence as balance when silence was fear? Then, like clockwork, he showed up again. Not invited, not scheduled, not part of the last taping block. Gino came to the parking lot outside Jasmine's final sit-down with producers. Security got the call before she even saw him. Black hoodie, baseball cap, arm holding a manila envelope. No camera crew, no ride back home. He wasn't there for show. He claimed he was there to hand off new evidence. "Just proof," he said. "Something to defend himself with." But Jasmine never saw what was in the envelope, because she wasn't the one he spoke to when he showed up. She was inside, calm, collecting herself for one final recorded response. But someone else came out first. It was her lawyer. And what Gino heard wasn't a threat. It was a fact. "She won't be talking to you. Not here, not off paper, not again." And that's what made him go quiet. The set was stripped down. Fewer lights, fewer people, one static camera. They called it a follow-up, but Jasmine knew what it really was. Closure. On record. No audience clapping, no back and forth, no chances for interruptions. This wasn't about drama anymore. This was the final page in a chapter most women never get the chance to finish. She walked in by herself. No glam team, no touch-ups, just a calm, deliberate rhythm in every step, like her body had finally caught up with her mind. They rolled camera. She asked for one take, no breaks. The shot opened with her sitting on the edge of the couch. Her voice was steady, eyes clear, no shaking this time. Not because she wasn't feeling anything, but because she'd already felt everything, and survived it. "I wanted to be loved," Jasmine said. "That was it. That's what I came here for. It wasn't about screens. It wasn't about angles. I was tired of being alone." She stopped, let her voice drift out, then began again. "If this were just about heartbreak, I'd be fine. I can survive that. But what happened wasn't heartbreak. It was erosion. Bit by bit, piece by piece, I lost parts of myself trying to make peace with someone who never valued the real me." Then she opened her hand and unfolded a small note. "I'm going to read this once," she said. "After that, I won't speak his name again." She looked straight into the lens. This was my message to him, the last one I ever sent. "I release you. I don't hate you. I don't need revenge. I don't need you to explain yourself anymore. I don't want answers. I want air. I want quiet. I want peace. And someday, I hope you find what you were looking for. Because it was never me." She folded the paper slowly. She didn't win the argument. She ended the war. That's what one producer whispered when they saw the raw cut. The cast saw it days later in a private screening room. No edits, no music underscoring emotion, just Jasmine, unprotected and free. The room fell still. Some cried. One called their mom afterward. No one laughed. No one rolled their eyes, because no matter where they stood on the drama, everyone recognized the moment for what it truly was, truth-telling its final version. It wasn't perfect. She owned mistakes. She admitted to things she'd done wrong. Lovers always do some damage trying to survive things they never saw coming. But the difference was, Jasmine didn't run anymore. Not from herself. Not from the story. Gino, meanwhile, had left town. Quietly. Not announced, no final statement. His lawyer spoke once to a blog, saying their case had not been filed as of now. A rumor floated he'd been advised to stay offline. Another said he tried contacting another reality show to tell his side. Every door closed. And while most people believed that was the last of it, Jasmine knew better. She moved cities. Not because she was afraid, because starting over was never weakness. It was freedom. She signed new representation, not for media, for boundaries. She rebuilt her life off camera. Started small. Yoga, cooking, no constant notifications. When her story aired, it didn't end in a bang. It ended in a breath. That final shot, the last time TLC clipped her in, It wasn't a confrontation. It wasn't a close-up. It was wide, unbothered. A single scene of Jasmine walking across a quiet park path, back straight, arms swinging loose by her side. Alone, but not lonely. For once, the credits rolled without background noise. But Gino? He wasn't done yet, and his next move was exactly what no one saw coming.